Sweet, that works. What's up, everybody? I'm super excited because I've got the legendary serial entrepreneur, digital entrepreneur, Dan Henry. Dan, thanks for coming down to Nonprofit and sharing everything you got going on. So, I've been following you for a couple of years now, ever since I think you branded yourself as pizza delivery guy turned Facebook ads millionaire. And so
I think my first brand was I build companies in Batman underwear.
Oh man, I don't know if that's gross or exciting, but I'll take it.
It gets attention. That's what matters.
Yeah, attention does matter. And so, what thing I loved about watching you in the space is that you've always been ahead of the curve in terms of the digital revolution. Can you kind of talk about, how you got into the digital space and how you've benefited from that arbitrage of jumping into what is the most trending thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to see what is the most next trending thing. It's because here's what happens, right? People do not have enough self-respect or self-confidence to be original. So they look at what other people are doing and they go, I'm going to do that. And that's 99% of people. So we can always know that when something starts to work, most people will jump onto it and try to make it work. So we know what most people are going to do. All we have to do is ask ourselves, what's the number one problem people will have when trying to do it that way? And then offer a solution to that problem. And that eventually ends up becoming the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because for instance, I'll give you an example. A lot of people were selling these very cheap courses, membership sites, stuff like that. And they were making money. And then all of a sudden, Facebook ads and media buying got very expensive.
Right.
So it's very hard to make money with something cheap.
And it got expensive because everybody got into that space, right? Is that what happened because of the supply and demand of Facebook ad dollars?
And because Zuckerberg's an asshole. Yes. Okay. Right. That too. These are very specific things we have to take into encounter. But yeah, Facebook is the only company that I've ever spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on, and I can't even call somebody if I have an issue. Like, think about that.
That's insane. And when you do talk to somebody, they don't know more than you about the Facebook ad platform.
Facebook rep guys are clueless.
Right.
They don't know anything. Yeah. Nothing. In fact, the advice is bad.
So that creates a new opportunity in the market.
Yeah. And so now what did everybody do? They said, oh, well, we're going to focus on selling more premium products, more high ticket stuff. Okay. Well, I already knew what would eventually happen. People would make money doing that. And then they'd eventually be like, I don't want to be on sales calls. Right. So then what's the next logical thing? Well, now they're going to go and they're going to try to hire salespeople, which they're not going to know how to do because they haven't been in the game long enough. They don't know how to emotionally manage a group of people and keep them motivated to close sales because they don't even know how to motivate themselves to close sales, right? So now eventually it's going to get to the point where it's just too hard to do that, right? So then everybody's going to be like, all right, well, now what's a way to solve that? And it's just this continuous ads. No one wants to get better at selling. I'll give you an example, right? I recently lost 25 pounds in 5 weeks. Okay.
Nice.
And you know how I did it?
Hiring somebody?
I hired a professional bodybuilder and he's like, okay, you're going to eat chicken and egg whites for breakfast. You're going to eat tuna and broccoli for the next meal. chicken and broccoli, tuna and broccoli, chicken and broccoli, and 6 egg whites for dinner. You're going to do 45 minutes of cardio every day, and you're going to lift weights. Now, I don't care who you are. I don't want to hear about your thyroid issues or any of that. If you do that, you will lose weight. The end.
Right.
Any other action beyond that is you not being strong enough to stick to a diet and exercise. So you have to go out and you have to give marketers money who know that you're weak.
Yeah.
And so now they're going to be like, oh, the Atkins diet, keto. These are made up terms.
Yeah.
These aren't real. It's marketing. It's meant to attack people who don't have the strength to just stop sitting on the couch and eating potato chips, dude. Stop it, right? And so they buy the next thing. Why? Because it's easier. Oh, you don't need to actually have discipline. You can do the Atkins diet.
Right.
You can do keto. You can do intermittent fasting because blah, blah, blah. It's all sales, right? So we know that 99% of people will simply seek an easier way to do the same thing. And all you have to do is look at what's trending and go, okay, what's the number one thing they don't want to deal with? Let's provide a solution to that thing. And I've always done that. And by the time everybody else's catches up and goes, oh yeah, we should do this. Like I've already made like 5-6 million from that. And I'm on to the next thing.
For sure. I think a great analogy is the gold rush, right? When everybody was coming into the gold rush, I mean, search a point where there's too many people looking for gold that those folks, the new folks that enter the market, aren't going to find gold because it's all gone or it's too expensive to find. But the people who made the most money in that space are the ones that are selling the shovels, selling the solutions to the people going into the gold rush. That's a great
analogy. Fantastic analogy. Yep.
So folks are able to chime in live, which is awesome. And I want to see if there's comments and questions and whatnot, because sometimes there are. It's John Vaughn. What's up, John? So anyways, my next question, because of this whole digital revolution piece, right? You've kind of, looked at the market and saw when Facebook made sense and saw when, these other platforms made sense. It looks like AI has been a huge game changer over the past 2 years. Can you kind of talk about how AI has changed the way you do business and, any exciting developments you have in that space?
Yeah. So I sold a company last year. We had 18 employees. And, when you sell a company, you can't keep the employees. You got to employees go with the company. And I went back to my original
company. That kind of sucks, though. If you built good relationships with them.
Yeah. But it is what it is. I don't cry about it, you know? So I went back and I wanted to rebuild my original company, getclients.com, which is like my personal brand, my personal company. But I had like 2 employees left. Like I didn't have anybody because I had sent them all to the new one.
Yeah.
So I didn't have copywriters. I didn't have marketers, and, I'm getting old. I don't want to do all this stuff myself like I used to. So I was like, all right, let me check out this AI thing. So I start using ChatGPT and I realized it sucks really bad. Like if I say like, write me a sales page, it just sucks. And I'm like, well, why does this suck? So I figure out that ChatGPT uses what's called training data.
Right.
It's a default set of data that is loaded into ChatGPT that everybody has access to. Right. That's why all the AI stuff sounds the same. So I was like, all right, I went back, I took all my marketing frameworks, all my split tests, all my stuff from a decade of spending millions of dollars on advertising and experimentation, and I made my own data set. And then I basically told AI to ignore any training data and use my data.
Okay.
And then I was able to produce like rock star marketing with AI that didn't sound like AI. So we do this experiment. And we say, hey, we'll write you a book for your business for $500, which is ridiculous, right? Like that should cost thousands upon thousands.
For sure.
You
did that as an offer under your business or as a test?
As a test, because that's not really. I'm not in the done for you book writing business. Right.
Yeah, that's a whole different space.
And what we did was we reached out to a developer. We had a developer create our own software where we use our own AI data. And we made we sold 300 books at $500 a piece.
That's dope.
We wrote them, sent them out, and not a single person complained. Oh, this sounds like AI.
Even better.
Yeah. And a lot of them, like their audiences love them and all that. And then we're like, all right, well, what do we do with this? So what we're launching next quarter is, the past several years I've helped marketers. I've helped business owners. What I want to do is I want to go back to helping normal, everyday people quit their job. And it's because I believe that these marketers, and I'm just going to be, anybody a marketer here?
We got a normal everyday business folks.
Yeah, I think you guys are overcharging. I think there are small businesses who need help. You guys read half a page from a Dan Kennedy book, then you want to charge $5,000 a month. You have not studied the craft. You have not earned your dues. You really don't know jack shit about marketing, but you're charging like you do, and that's unfair.
Right.
Okay. And I think it's unfair to small businesses. And so what I want to do is develop we've developed software that'll allow the normal, everyday, average person to charge way less and use our AI to create good marketing that's probably better than most marketers, offer that to businesses. They make a living. The small business gets amazing marketing for a much lower cost, and everyone wins, everyone's happy. And that gets you started in the digital marketing space. And then, eventually you learn the craft and maybe you can go further. But that's the next thing we're launching.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on getting that product, into the market. Yeah. Where do you think AI is headed over the next 5 years? I mean,
everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere for sure. But are there any things where you think like these large action models, or you're going to have a robot secretary in your office? Is there anything that kind of excites you about what the future of AI looks like in 5 years?
I mean, dude, in 5 years, we can't even comprehend it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it obviously ends in AI killing us all.
Oh man.
Because it realized how much we suck.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Right.
But I don't want to die poor.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to die at all. I mean, I'll die.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to kill us all. It's
okay.
fine. The point is that in the interim, let's use it to make some money and accomplish some things. I'll give you an example. They found that AI, Google's AI, I believe it is, is better at diagnosing skin cancer than a high-level doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember, do you watch TV? Like, you have favorite movies, favorite TV shows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Avatar, Walking Dead, Superman, Batman, all these Stranger Things, okay? All delayed. Is anybody annoyed by that? Like, have you been wanting to watch your shows and then you're like, why are they delayed a year? You know why that happened? Because Hollywood screenwriters went on strike. For 5 months. Hollywood was shut down for 5 months. Do you know why? They were protesting over the use of AI in script writing. Now, why were they angry? It's because somebody with a lot of skill, a lot of talent, and a lot of experience, now their job could be done by someone with a low amount of skill, a low amount of talent, and a low amount of experience, and do almost just as good of a job, if not in some cases better, right?
With the advent of AI, for sure.
Exactly. So they're angry. So the principle here and the point is that AI is not going to take anybody's job. People that use AI are going to take your job.
Right.
Okay. And so they won, but it's probably temporary. Okay. Now imagine if you took a screenwriter and they used AI.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm a professional marketer. Some would say I'm one of the best in the world. I'm not saying that, but a lot of people say that. When I used AI, it was an amazing output, right?
For sure.
So instead of saying, oh, well, we shouldn't do this. It's like, well, why don't we just make this yet another tool in our tool belt? Like, we have electricity now. When electricity came out, was somebody like, oh my God, it's going to put my candle business out of, my candle business is going to go out of business. Like, you got lamps now. Like, well, that shit happens, dude.
And then scented candles, right? In every type of disruption in the market, there's going to open up a new market, open up more opportunities.
Exactly. Oh, you don't need candles anymore? Well, your house smells like crap. Let's do scented candles. Right. Like, there's always a way. There's always a way.
Yeah. So. Yeah, totally. A huge adjust. Like when AI came out, or we teach a bunch of ChatGPT classes out of this space and how to use AI for business development or marketing. And something I talk a lot about is if you give it basic prompts, you're just going to get basic answers. Right?
Anybody want a good prompt to make it sound less like AI? You guys want that?
I think everybody does.
Okay. So what you do, here's what I did. I went on Facebook and I said, what are some words and phrases that the AI always uses that you can tell it's AI? And I had a bunch of comments. I took them, I made a list. And then I said to AI, what are the common phrases you use? And then I matched them up, because the only reason you think something sounds like AI is because you see it a lot, right? If before AI, you saw copy that said, oh, this is a treasure chest of knowledge, you wouldn't think anything. It was just, but because you see it repeated over and over again, you recognize that it's AI, because AI will say treasure chest a lot. And so what I did was I made a prompt where I said, you see all these words here? Write this copy, do this thing, but don't use any of these phrases or any of these words. to make it sound more human, right? Well, when it took all that out, it automatically sounded more human. Not because it was any different, just because it lacked the consistencies that make you perceive it as AI.
Right. Like so embark on a journey, delve into the wide tapestry of life, or all
nobody would care that somebody said delve into or treasure chest or any of that before AI. But now that you see it so much, you recognize it. So you just simply take that out of the equation, and now it's a lot harder to know it's AI.
Yeah. And the marketing lesson in there is that there's noise in the market space. And so if you're just going to contribute more noise into the space, people aren't going to be able to receive it. And that's why that marketing falls flat in the first place.
Yeah.
So going back to you, Dan, and your company. So you've got Get Clients University. Can you kind of tell us about what your vision and mission for this company is? And why vision and mission is important in the first place?
Well, I think that if you don't know, it's like this, right? There's this famous archer from back in the day. And he's one of these guys who can take a bow and arrow, shoot it, hit the target dead in the center of the bullseye. And then he can take another arrow, shoot that, and split that target. I guarantee you, I could take any one of you, and in 20 minutes, I could show you how to hit the target more consistently than that world-class archerist. Provided he is blindfolded. Because if you can't see the target, you can't hit it. So I'll give you an example, right? Does anybody here know how much money you have to make per day to make $1 million? Nobody does. You all have to Google it, right? Okay. But do you all want to make $1 million? But you don't know how much you have to make per day to make $1 million. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that nuts? Like if you really wanted to make $1 million, wouldn't you know that? These are the things we don't think about. So yes, you have to have that North Star. You have to have that vision.
That number is like what, $83K a month? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, but per day, I think it's, what is it, like $2,500 or something?
Yeah, it's like $2,473.
Yeah, $2,473.
And so rewiring that back to like vision and mission, most folks have it.
The body they want, they don't have the money they want, they don't have the car they want, they don't have the house they want. Only 1% of people have that. But 99% of people all want what the 1% have, but yet they still behave like the 99%. They still eat crap. You guys eat sugar, dairy. These two things alone limit your ability to cognitively function, right? Your mind is the thing that's going to make you money, yet you eat garbage that makes you think less clear. You don't get up at 5 a.m. when all the other people who are going to annoy you are asleep, where you can actually get stuff done. You get up at 9. You come home from a hard day's work, and you say to yourself, oh, I've worked hard. I deserve to watch Netflix. No, you don't. You're not a millionaire yet. Pick up a book, okay? And I used to be that guy. I worked for a sales company 15 years ago, and the guy that owned it, he owned multiple companies, like 7, 8 companies. They all had him housed in the same building.
Okay.
But he was a really nice guy. This guy's a legit billionaire. His name was Jeff.
Okay.
He would buy lunch for all the companies every day. And he would sit with the employees every day in a different spot. Yeah, it was really cool. One day I got to sit next to him. I said, Jeff, man, I really want to get rich. I want to buy my mom a house. I want to buy my dad a house. How do I get rich?
Right.
And he looks at me and he says, how many books do you read per week on money and business? I said, none. He says, oh, well, then you're wasting my time. You don't want to get rich.
Yeah.
I said, no, I want to get rich. What do you mean? Who doesn't want to get rich? He's like, people that want to get rich read books on how to get rich. You don't want to get rich. So when you figure that out, that's the first step.
For sure.
And that's when I realized that I was behaving like a normie, right? You look, I'm sorry, but most of us constantly focus on what we have to do to get something instead of what we have to become to deserve it. If you're overweight and you eat like shit and you don't go to the gym, you kind of deserve to be fat. You just do, because you're not doing what people who deserve to be jacked are doing, right? I wasn't either. I was not happy with my body. I was plump for a long time. And I was a gym guy. Like, I'm like, why am I not lean? I hire a bodybuilder. And he looks at my diet and he's like, are you eating fruit? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, that's why you're fat. Fruit is for fat people. I'm like, what do you mean fruit is for fat people? And he's like, it's sugar, dude. It's pure sugar. Look at what's in an orange. It's literally all carbohydrates and sugar. It won't give you cancer, but it'll make you fat. He's like, you're not the person you need to be. The person that needs to be, you want to lose weight, you eat chicken and egg whites for breakfast, okay? That's what it is. I lost 25 pounds.
That's amazing.
In 5 weeks.
Yeah. So that's really important. I mean, setting a target of what it is you want.
And becoming the person that deserves that target.
Yeah, by putting in the work and learning and surrounding yourself with the right people.
And accepting that work needs to be done.
Yeah. So what about your legacy, Dan? I mean, you've done a couple businesses already. You've achieved some of the things that many entrepreneurs aim to achieve. Have you thought about, what legacy looks like? Have you thought about what the next 20, 40 years of your life might look like and beyond that?
Honestly, man, I've made all the money that I need to make. I've got houses in 3 different countries. I've taken care of my parents. I've done financially everything I need to do. Would I like to make more? Yeah. I mean,
sure. Who don't put that out.
Who wouldn't? But my number one goal is to make money a different way. Okay. I lost my wife when we were married friggin' 6-7 years ago because I worked too much. Okay.
For sure.
And then we were divorced for 5 years. And my life just was horrible, right? I had all the things men want. I had a yacht. I had beautiful women on the yacht. I was partying. I was doing the Jordan Belfort Wolf of Wall Street thing. And every night I went to bed and I felt like horrible, And over time I realized that those shiny dopamine triggers were just me being a drug addict in my head. And that I really wanted my family back. I wanted to see my son every day. And so I got rid of all those people in my life. I stopped drinking. I just completely gave everything up. And I became the person that at least could deserve to get my wife back. And I asked her, I said, hey, can we get remarried? And she told me very seriously, Dan, I would rather light myself on fire than remarry you.
Ouch.
And that was the first time I asked her. I asked her 314 times.
Oh, wow.
And on the 314th, she said, yes, we got remarried. We've been remarried a year. I see my son every day.
Oh, that's amazing.
My number one goal is when I die to look back on my life and not say the same thing that Steve Jobs said, that it wasn't all worth it. I was a good father. I was a good husband. And that I made the money the way I want to make it. Because I think the biggest problem that we have is we think a dollar equals a dollar. And a dollar doesn't equal a dollar. Who here thinks a dollar equals a dollar? Okay, if I take a dollar and I put it at your feet, and I take another dollar and I put it a mile away, you got to walk a mile to get the dollar. Which dollar do you want?
The one on your feet.
You want the one right here. So what you're telling me is that dollar is worth more.
Effort.
Right, it's less effort. That dollar is worth more than that dollar.
Right.
Now, if that was a $100 bill, that'd be different, but they're both a dollar.
Yeah.
You say they're equal, but they're not, because that dollar is easier to get. So I don't just look to make money. I look to make money in a way that doesn't ruin my life, sacrifice my marriage, sacrifice my relationship with my son.
For sure.
That's my number one goal.
Absolutely. And the way to do that essentially, and we're seeing this in AI, one of the interesting principles that I'm thinking about with the economy is the economy forever has always made money off of the labor of people. And it was the labor of people that created value for the economy to thrive. And ever since the advent of this digital technology and the internet, that has become less and less the case because of apps and automations. I think with AI, it's reaching a whole new level where the economy and the value generation of the world in the near future is going to be coming from AI versus labor. And so figuring out as business owners, how do we implement AI to do the entire delivery of our service and whatever else that might look like, that sounds a lot more exciting and promising than selling your time as a high-ticket consultant.
Yeah, but you got to put in the time to learn AI at a level where you can legitimately replace it.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, this has been super dope. Does anybody want to chime in with any questions that's watching? Let me see what people. You dropped something in the chat. So Shaq asks, what advice would you give to hardworking entrepreneurs who have a family who can barely be home?
I would say that you need to give up the idea that you need to work hard, because hard work doesn't make money. That's poor people thinking, right? Think about this. A brick builder who says, I have 40 years experience laying brick. No, you don't. You have 2 weeks experience laying brick, because that's all it takes to learn how to lay brick. You have 40 years experience settling for laying brick, because the guy that convinced a group of people over here to give him a bunch of money, to pay you to build the brick, to then go over here and talk to these people, to convince them to give more money for the building that was already built. You make jack. This guy makes millions. They make money. Like, the person that worked the hardest in that whole scenario made the least amount of money.
That's wild.
All right. So you need to understand that communicators make the most money. Presidents, authors, musicians, speakers, okay, actors. Learn how to communicate. Words are currency.
Yeah.
Okay. Every war was started and ended because of words. Every relationship started and ended because of words. Every president elected or not elected because of the words they chose to say to the American people. Words are everything. You master words, you can have anything in life that you want. And I can't think of a least strenuous activity than talking.
Right. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why we're podcasting right now. It's because it creates value, helps share the message, and ultimately, to go back to your question, Shaq, I mean, working smarter, not harder, right? And leveraging whatever it is you can leverage beyond a low value skill. So whether that's a higher value skill,
instead of working hard, work hard at learning to get better at communicating. And when you get better at communicating, the work becomes easy. Yeah. The money becomes easy. Everything becomes easy. And then you get to go home.
I love that. Thank you. Any more questions from the folks?
Don't worry, I don't bite.
Awesome. Hard. Mel, go for it.
Okay, for me, like, let's say I have a lot of young kids, right?
Young kids?
Yeah, young kids as that I train and I work with. What would you tell a young kid that wants to start a business, doesn't have the knowledge and doesn't have resources to do so?
What would I tell a young kid who doesn't have the knowledge, skills, or resources to start a business?
Yeah, and then they love the idea of starting, like, they want to venture different things. What would be the first thing you tell them that they need to do, or where do they need to start so they can be?
Don't go to college and consider dropping out of school.
Say that again?
Don't go to college and consider dropping out of school. Okay? Self-educate. Look, I'm a data guy, right? You look at the data, the American school system does not produce good results. It just doesn't, okay? When I was in middle school, I pleaded and begged my father to let me homeschool, okay? And we did this program called American School. And what they would do is they would send you the books out in the mail. You had 4 years to read the books, complete the test, mail them in. There was no time limit. You got it done in 4 years, you're good.
Right.
Right? The first 3 years, I didn't read a single book. I read entrepreneurial books. I read books on skills. And, my father was a DJ on Daytona Beach.
Okay.
He was kind of out of it.
So he was not homeschooling.
That wasn't checking in. Okay. In the 4th year, he's like, "Hey, how's school going?" And I was like, "Oh crap." So I quickly read all the books, did all the tests, and they were easy. They were dumb. Have you ever seen curriculum in American school? It's like, dude, like you have to have a head injury not to be able to figure this out, right? And so I just quickly passed all the tests and got my high school degree, went on to college, which my parents wanted me to. That was even worse. Dropped out of college, went out, got into business, struggled for a few years like we all do, and then eventually became a multimillionaire. And I'll tell you this, I didn't learn a single thing on how to do that from school. What I learned was you set a goal, you then do stuff, you encounter friction, and then you viciously, aggressively seek out the knowledge and mentorship you need to remove the friction in between starting and the goal. And then you do it again, and then you do it again. You don't go out and read a book on something that isn't an issue for you right now. That's called a distraction. You encounter an issue that's preventing you from getting to the next phase, and you aggressively look for the knowledge that you need to solve that issue. That is the highest form of self-education, okay? Setting a goal, pursuing it, encountering a problem and pursuing the education you need to solve that problem. And then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. Have you ever seen the movie The Martian with Matt Damon? At the end of the movie, after he was saved from Mars, it fast forward like 20 years or whatever, and there's a group of young students. And he gets up there and he says, look, when you go up into space, at some point, everything is going to go south. And you're going to think, this is it. This is how I die. Now you got two choices. You can accept your fate, or you can do the math. You can solve one problem after another, after another, another. And if you solve enough problems, you get to come home. It's the same thing with entrepreneurship. You start a business. You solve one problem after another, after another. If you solve enough problems, you get to become a millionaire. But if you stop, your business dies. That's it. So my biggest piece of advice is, look, 20 years ago, I would tell you the American propaganda of stay in school, kids, only because I was pressured by society to say that. Because if I don't, I'm a bad parent. I'm saying the opposite now. I'm saying forget school. The answers are out there, okay? The books were written by millionaires that have already solved the problem. Go read those. That is the best advice I could give you.
You know, one thing I want to underscore from that is the drive for self-education. You know, when you told your dad, hey, let me be homeschooled, it was because you had other things that you wanted to go learn. And when you're learning the world of entrepreneurship, you need to know all the basic things that school teaches you. In terms of, well, you need to know how to read.
I need to know about rocks.
You need to know how to read. You need to know how to do critical thinking.
I didn't learn how to read
and you need to know how to do some math. But my point is,
I've never used algebra in my life.
Not even for unit economics or figuring out your business finances.
You don't need algebra to calculate an ROI.
Don't, but my point is,
I spent this. I made that. Here's the difference.
Yeah, my point is the drive to self-education's got to be there.
Yes, but I and maybe we disagree on this, and that's fine. But let me ask you a question. Do you think at least 90% of parents do a bad job? Can we all agree that at least 90% of parents do a bad job? We can agree, right? Okay. And that's just the sad truth of it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're going to send your kids to a place 8 hours a day where they're around a whole group of kids where 90% of them have parents that taught them wrong. And you don't think that's going to affect your child?
Yeah. It totally will. It totally will. So I
don't need to know about rocks to have a good life and make money and be a good dad. I don't need to know about rocks. Okay. I don't. Like if I was going to be a geologist, fine. But you know how many hours in school I spent learning about rocks? What did I do? I didn't use that. It was a waste of time. I didn't learn how to balance a checkbook. I didn't learn how to budget. I didn't learn anything about success. Why? Right. Because John D. Rockefeller, who founded and funded the General Board of Education, said, I am not in the business of making a nation of thinkers. I'm in the business of making a nation of workers. Do you know why there's school bells in school? Because during the Industrial Revolution, they needed more factory workers. So they started training children and conditioning them to come when the bell rang. Right. So anybody that tells me school is cool, I'm sorry, it ain't cool. It never was, and it never will be. And that's just my opinion.
I hope that it will be one day, though, because I think the school system's got to be disrupted. Here's where I'm coming from. I went to all 5 types of school. I was, it's a public school, private school, Christian school, an online school. And
I went to Christian school too.
And I was homeschooled too, right? So I was homeschooled for most of my life. I graduated high school when I was 14. I go straight to college after that. And what that taught me was that the school system is industrial. But for me, why I was able to crush school was because I just found my passion in learning. And so when I'm teaching, I can see if somebody has the passion to learn, they can learn anything and overcome anything. If they don't have the passion to self-learn.
Do you think you need to go to traditional school to have that passion?
No, because most of the things that I learned also happened to be outside of school. I would just go learn whatever it is that I wanted to learn. Yeah. But it's that passion.
I think there's some good schools out there that are not like government schools that are like what you have going on here. I think is a great idea, right? But it takes disruptors to create those things. Unfortunately, there's this much of you, and there's this much of people who teach about rocks.
So I'm curious about your son. Like, are you homeschooling him? Or, Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's
I truly and honestly believe that sending your child to school is the highest form, unless you're beating them in the face with a baseball bat. Okay, it's the highest form of child abuse.
Oh man.
You asked me. I see you getting nervous.
No, you're good.
You asked me the question.
You're homeschooling your kid. So back to business and digital marketing, entrepreneurship. Last piece of advice you want to share with our growing community of entrepreneurs and emerging business owners.
Yeah, man. I've been through it. I've been a bad husband, a bad father. I've been a good husband, a good father. I've been a bad entrepreneur. I've been a good entrepreneur. I've been through it, man. And I'm just going to tell you, sometimes, you know, you can learn this tactic and that tactic and all this, but the truth is you got to wake up. You got to go in the mirror. You got to look at yourself, and you got to admit to yourself that you're just not about it. You're not being about it. And you have to make the decision to be about it. You have to make the decision to be uncomfortable. Okay. Because here's why. When you are old and you're sitting in the same house that you sat in 20 years ago, even though you wanted a bigger house, you never took those vacations. You never had those experiences in those moments with your kid. And you look back on that regret when you're about to go to the other side, and that's it. That feeling of that is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That feeling of discomfort is far more uncomfortable than the feeling of discomfort you have right now that says, I don't want to get up early. I don't want to read books. I don't want to, like, you know, I don't want to give up bad food so I feel better and can think better. That's uncomfortable. I don't want to do something I've never done before to get something I've never had before. I don't want to get over my fears. That's uncomfortable. Yeah, it is, but it's nowhere near as uncomfortable as being about to die and looking back at your life and realizing that you didn't do what you wanted to do. So every morning when you wake up, just think about what it would feel like right before you die to have that regret, and then you plan your day. That's honest, and that's what did it for me.
That was great advice. Dan, thank you so much, man. This was an amazing opportunity.
Woo. Thank you.
Dude, great conversation.